In Genesis 25, verse 30 through 32, it says, "And Esau said to Jacob, please feed me with that same red stew, for I am weary." Therefore his name was called Edom. But Jacob said, "Sell me your birthright as of this day." And Esau said, "Look, I'm about to die." What is he saying? I'm exhausted. I'm hungry. I'm tired of waiting. I'm tired of being in the season. What is this birthright to me? So you have to fully understand what a birthright is. A birthright is this man's inheritance. So he's exchanging land, influence, and money for some stew. A lot of us, I feel like I'm coming for your scalp. A lot of us have failed to realize that since we are saved, we have an inheritance. So there's some kingdom exclusives that we have since we are in a relationship with the Lord. Meaning, since he's the Prince of Peace, I have inherited peace. Since he's the God who gives me joy and the joy of the Lord is my strength, I should have joy. So now the quintessential question is, if he's the Prince of Peace, why don't I have none? And I think the answer is crystal clear right here in the text. He says, what is this to me? I'm about to die. When you are exhausted, you don't use logic. It doesn't make logical sense for you to exchange inheritance, money, and land for some lentil stew. Just like it doesn't make logical sense for you to exchange your peace for an orgasm. Yeah, we're going there. It doesn't make logical sense for you to entertain somebody that is toxic just to treat your insecurity issue. It doesn't make logical sense to hang in an atmosphere or a group or a community that is cancerous to your soul, but you hang around them because they are your day ones. It doesn't make logical sense. And when you're exhausted and when you're hungry, you're praying about things, you're asking God to give you clarity about things, you want to see his hand, you want to know his will, and you cannot hear it in this atmosphere, and you cannot hear it when you're exhausted. Because if you're like me, when I get exhausted, I get sick and I get delusional. The devil has more patience than probably me and you. He knows how to let something hit your life at 15 and watch it till you're 25, because he always makes sure that weakness has an opportunity to meet up with an opportunity. Your weakness and an opportunity will always collide. And at the right season, when you're vulnerable, when you're weak, when you're tired, when you're confused, when you don't have confirmation, boom, that's when he will come to try to get you, because he knows you're tired of waiting. You're tired of hoping that your husband would change. You're tired of entertaining this type of stuff. You're tired, and when you're exhausted, you don't use logical sense. Verse 27, look at this. It says, "So the boys grew, and Esau was a skillful hunter." Skills to hunt. Skills to hunt. Why does this change everything? Because this lets me know that Esau can cook and catch. He has the ability not only to cook things, but to kill them as well. We know that he could cook because if you know the backdrop of this story, the way that Esau was going to get blessed was he was going to bring his father his favorite meal. So Esau has the ability to cook, and he has the ability to catch, but he settles for what's now. A lot of us are getting trapped up because we're settling for now offers instead of waiting for later blessings. This man has the ability to cook. This man has the ability to catch. He's so exhausted and he's so hungry that he's willing to exchange everything he has for this. There are 4 types of exhaustion: physically exhausted, relationally exhausted, emotionally exhausted, and being spiritually exhausted. The reason we can't get confirmation is because we're spending our whole day listening to other things. So by the time we do commit to a prayer time or devotion, we're exhausted. And this is why we keep falling asleep. This is why when we read the scriptures, we're falling asleep. This is why when we try to pray, we fall asleep, because we're giving God our leftovers, not our first fruits. And this is an area that a lot of people don't recognize. Maybe I'm not hearing heaven because I'm always going to seek heaven once I'm exhausted. Physical exhaustion. When you are physically exhausted, this is prolonged tiredness. You skip workout regimens that you normally would commit yourself to. You'll skip meals. You will go a whole day and not even eat. Not on purpose, but you'll be driving home and recognize, girl, I haven't even ate today. All you had was graham crackers. All you had was chips. So you're malnourished physically, and this has the propensity to bleed over into our spiritual life. And so we'll do the same thing with God. We'll have a chip of a scripture. We'll have a cracker of prayer time because we're so consumed with everything else, and now we are physically exhausted. Sleeplessness is the fastest way to burnout. Sleep is our anatomy's refuel button. And there is a problem when you are more intentional with charging your phone than charging your body, than charging your spirit. You have a backup car charger. You have a charger in your purse. You have a charger in your backpack. You have a charger at your job. You have a charger in your gym locker. You will probably run to make sure that you put your phone on the charger because you don't want it to die. Some of us protect our phone more than we protect our soul. I care more about dropping my phone than I do dropping my panties. I care more about dropping my phone than dropping my prayer life. I care more about dropping my phone than dropping my compassion. I care more about dropping my phone than I do dropping my commitment level to community. Be aware of this reality. A lot of times when we are physically exhausted, it bleeds over into where we are only giving God our leftovers and not our first fruits. Relational exhaustion. This happens many times because we are surrounded by more drains than fountains. We're feeding everybody, but we're not being fed ourselves. Since many times we lack knowing who we are, we keep on feeding people who only want a to-go plate. They're not there to stay. They're there to take. Now, if you're in marriage, this could happen to you too. You could be in a covenant and relationally tired because there's so many changes that you want them to have that you are tired out of being hopeful. And because you have branded a should have by now to your marriage, they should have got this by now. They should have understood this by now. They should get me by now. They should stop doing this by now. They should do this by now. Since we have all of these should have by nows, we now are relationally exhausted. And I'm exhausted due to them not meeting my appointment. And so now I'm disappointed because I appointed an expectation on them and they dissed that by not doing that. And I'm disappointed. Emotionally exhausted. This is just when you're numb, you're stressed. I'm done. I have put too much effort into that relationship to not get a return on my investment. And I think this is why we quit on things, because I put too much effort and too much energy to not reap the return that I thought I should reap, versus recognizing that sometimes we go through things because we ignored God's red flag, or God deliberately allowed us to go through things, so now you'll value him. You wouldn't value that if you didn't go through that. And God has a way of using our mistakes as a transportational system to get us to our destiny. Spiritual exhaustion. This is when you have lost an appetite for the things of God. You have lost an appetite for prayer. You have lost an appetite for church. Church is now optional. And it's not always because you're busy. It's not always because you have other things to do. It becomes optional because sometimes we feel as though this is no longer something that's worth my time. It's not really changing me. They don't really know if I'm gonna get married or not. How do I know that this is going to change my life? Self-discipline is one of the highest forms of self-love. It's not about what you think, because God has a way of giving you a word out of season so that when you hit the season, you can have an open book test. God does not give you tests to punish you. He gives you tests to show you how much you really know. No good teacher gives you a test as a form of punishment. Teachers that are good give you tests because you have already been given the study guide. And so the challenge many times is being consistent with spiritual disciplines, being consistent with community. You may view this as just something that you're watching through Facebook or YouTube on your own personal time, but we believe that this was a collision as a part of your destiny to help you be aware and to help you be educated in the areas of satanic strategies so that you could know, maybe I'm not hearing because I'm tired. I only go to heaven when I need something. I only go to heaven giving him my leftovers. And on tonight, I'm trying to convince you, if you give God your first fruits, praying in the morning, you don't know what you just shifted that day. You don't know what you just altered that day. Pray so that you can have a close relationship with God. Prayer is the most powerful weapon in the Christian arsenal. Prayer. Sheep need to be able to hear their shepherd. Sheep need to be able to hear their shepherd, and they do this by constant prayer. And when you find your place, when you're spiritually exhausted, the devil says this word a lot: quit.